Foreign Minister, thanks for joining me on UpFront. We've seen hundreds of Kenyan civilians killed at Garissa University, at the Westgate shopping mall and many other places by al-Shabab, those fighters who emerged out of Somalia a decade ago. Is Kenya winning or losing the war against al-Shabab in your view?
We're winning the war in Kenya. We're winning the war in Kenya because we've deployed a lot of resources. We have done a lot of capacity building. We have trained personnel in the security sector. We have bought a lot of equipment, including surveillance equipment. We are better coordinated. So we are much better at preventing attacks than we ever were.
You say you've become better at preventing attacks, but surely you would recognize that Kenya's 2011 decision to go into Somalia to take the fight to al-Shabab over time has backfired, surely, because the number of attacks has gone up, not down. A recent report by the Nation newspaper found that there were 9 times more attacks in the 4 years after the Kenyan military intervention than there were in the 4 years before.
You know, we had
been a failure on that basis.
No, we had attacks before. We went in because we actually had to safeguard our own national security interests. We also had to safeguard our own national economic interests, right? So there were so many reasons at all levels for going in, and we had the support of everybody around us, including the then Somali government.
I'm not disputing that, I'm just saying that it doesn't seem to be working in terms of numbers.
It's working.
You say working. 5 years on from that intervention, al-Shabab seems to be able to carry out cross-border attacks in your country at will. Recently, 2 Kenyan police officers, they came into the country and took them away.
Who are you comparing us to? Look at what's happening in Western Europe. What's happening in the rest of the world? Who are you comparing us to? We have done very, very, very well. Right? We have done very, very well in the last 15 months.
What about the soldiers who were killed in January earlier this year?
In Somalia, yes, El-Ade. And El-Ade was one huge, traumatic, experience for all of us.
How many soldiers died in that attack?
Well, frankly, the figures are still out. The figures
you don't know how many of your own soldiers died?
No, I will not.
There are some who say you don't want to say it because you don't want to undermine.
I will not even go into that argument. I will not even go into that.
You wouldn't say how many soldiers died?
If one dies, it's too many. One too many. If 2 die,
okay, but not saying how many suggests you don't want to show that your war effort is losing.
No.
It's going badly.
10 too many. 12 too many.
Okay.
And everybody who is in this war against terrorism is trying their damn best. And I think the worst thing that you can do, right, is say that somebody is doing badly, because everybody is doing badly, and everybody is trying their damnedest.
I'm not speaking to everybody right now. I'm speaking to the Foreign Minister of Kenya. When I speak to other representatives of other governments, I also press them on their failures in this so-called war on terror.
We are part of the globe.
Well,
we are part of the globe.
Okay.
And we are
let's talk about
globalized
Kenya.
World.
Fair enough. No one's disputing that.
World. We are an interrelated world.
Fine. But you wanted to talk about, you said you're winning in Kenya, maybe not in Somalia. Let's talk about inside of Kenya.
In Somalia, we're also winning the war. Look at where Somalia was.
Even though you've lost so many soldiers, you can't say how many.
Look at where Somalia was just a few years back.
Well, time is limited. Let's talk about Kenya. Inside of Kenya, you talk about inside of Kenya. Ever since 2011, ethnic Somalis in Kenya, many say, have been unfairly targeted, harassed, arrested, attacked, detained, tortured. That's according to Kenya's own National Commission on Human Rights, the US State Department's annual human rights report. Human Rights Watch.
Who are they talking to?
Human Rights Watch.
Who are they talking to? None of them has come to talk to me. None of them has come to talk to any government agency. Who are they talking to?
Hold on. What you're saying is the Kenya's National Commission on Human Rights is not talking to anyone.
Who are they talking to?
And the US State Department?
Who are they talking to?
Nobody?
No.
They've just made it up?
They're making it up.
Wow. The US State Department, your close ally, has made it up when it says the most serious human rights problems were security force abuses, including alleged unlawful killings, forced disappearances, torture, use of excessive force.
You know what? It can either
be
a
conspiracy.
Monologue or a dialogue.
Okay.
Right? It can either be a monologue.
I'm putting the claim to you. You please tell me.
If you want it to be a monologue and you want to talk to yourself, that's fine.
I'm talking to you.
But I can tell you.
You're not answering me.
That's exactly what all those guys are doing.
Okay, what are they doing?
They're talking to themselves.
Okay.
They're talking to
themselves.
They
haven't interviewed
and you know
survivors,
if
eyewitnesses.
If you actually talk to yourself, right? Right? Then it's not possible to find a solution. Okay. You have to have a dialogue. Right? So otherwise, you have the dialogue of the deaf.
Okay, so let's not have a dialogue of the deaf. Let me put a point to you, and you can reject it. Kenya's National Commission on Human Rights said in 2014 a huge police crackdown on suspected terrorists. Hold on. Let me finish the point.
Interview them, because honestly, they haven't talked to me.
They said
so.
If they don't speak to the foreign minister, their report doesn't count.
I haven't seen the report. I haven't had any of my cabinet colleagues tell me that they have spoken to anybody in cabinet.
Arbitrary arrests, extortion, theft, sexual harassment.
Well, sorry,
it's all false.
Sorry, I don't care whether it's false or true. They have not talked to anybody.
You're the foreign minister.
No, they haven't talked to anybody. They haven't. Those numbers have not been verified. That information has not been verified, right? I am not saying that. Look, even if one person, and I'll repeat this again, if one person is treated badly, if one person's human rights are violated, that's one person too many.
Okay, but you're not even acknowledging one person right now. They're saying ethnic Somalis are being driven into the arms of al-Shabab because you're...
If you have a dialogue of the deaf, you will not find a solution. What I'm saying is, if you actually have those figures, right, what you should be talking to is talk to government, raise these issues with government.
They have raised it. Human Rights Watch would say they have raised it with the Kenyan government.
Sorry,
the US government says there's impunity at all levels of Kenyan government.
I don't know anybody... Well,
that's what they say.
I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to tell you.
The US government, your ally, is saying that.
That's totally wrong.
On the refugee front, since we're not getting anywhere there, on the refugee front, Kenya has admirably taken in a lot of refugees, hundreds of thousands, more than 500,000. I believe Kenya has taken in more refugees than most other countries on earth. And you spoke at the UN recently in New York about the need to safely repatriate hundreds of thousands of Somali refugees that Kenya has been hosting. Your government says the massive Dadaab refugee camp complex in eastern Kenya, where many of them live in awful conditions, has to be shut down. It's been infiltrated by al-Shabab in parts. The Somali government says shutting down those camps will increase the terror threat. And the UN Refugee Agency says shutting them, quote, might also be at odds with Kenya's international obligations.
That's so interesting. We have a tripartite agreement that we entered into in 2013, not yesterday, not today, not the day before, right? In 2013, between Kenya, Somalia, and UNHCR, where we agreed what steps had to be taken, what needed to be done. We are all of us, the three of us, implementing that agreement. So again there, right, all that directed at Kenya is wrong, because everything we're doing together. We're doing the verification of the refugees. By the way, they're not only Somali refugees at Dadaab, right? We're doing the verification together, right? We're making the repatriation plans together. The land is identified by the Somali government where these people have to go, right? And honestly, I think, don't you think it's time to give the Somali refugee back their dignity? They were
a lot of those refugees say they fear going home and they're being forced to by Kenyan security officials.
Again, I'm sorry, there are three parties to the agreement. All of us are present in Dadaab.
What about the refugees?
All of us are present in Dadaab. UNHCR is there.
And the UNHCR is criticizing your government.
UNHCR is there, and it has not criticized us.
It said that the Kenyan government might be at odds with its international obligations.
We signed the agreement with them. We have a tripartite agreement with UNHCR.
Just because you signed an agreement doesn't mean you're not violating your obligations
and we agreed
elsewhere.
on the steps that need to be taken. We actually agreed on the steps that were being...
So why is the two other parties criticizing you? It's not a very good tripartite agreement if the Somali government and the UN Refugee Agency is criticizing you. No, the problem that we have, the problem is not repatriation, right? We have 27,000 that have gone back, 100,000 that have registered to go back but have not yet gone back. The problem that we have, right, is not that. The problem that we have, and that you should be helping us highlight, right, is getting the international community, right, to meet its own obligations. Yes, and we agree the international community has obligations. No one's questioning that point.
And there's no way that we can be made to implement and to whatever our obligations, right, to meet our obligations, if everybody else is not. And we are not an island.
Okay, but when the UNHCR, who you entered into agreement with, when the UNHCR says it's calling on the government of Kenya to reconsider its decision to avoid taking any action that might be at odds with its international obligations.
We are doing it together.
You don't want to hear that?
We are doing it together.
You said to me earlier you wish people came and talked to you. They're talking to you.
Together.
And you're not listening to them.
No, we're doing it together. We're doing it with
They don't think that. It's a very odd definition of together, because they don't seem to do that together.
The verification is carried out by them.
And they're telling the world that they think you might be in violation of your international obligations.
The repatriation is being done jointly, so there's and it's not the first time, by the way. It's not the first time. Don't make this the first time that a repatriation has occurred. We in Kenya have been hosting refugees.
Anyone said that. I quoted you what the UN said.
We have been hosting refugees more than any other country in the world.
I think I conceded that point. I was asking specifically about your obligations with regard to these refugees in Dadaab.
We have met all our obligations. Today, we are receiving South Sudanese refugees in Kakuma.
And that's very admirable. That doesn't deal with my point.
We are not, right, violating any obligations. If we were, the whole world would have come down like a ton of bricks, right, on our heads. We are not. Everybody recognizes that. I've just come from New York, and we've had a very good discussion on the type of resources that are required, right, to support the return of the refugees.
So it's just the UNHCR who's got it wrong, no one else?
Well, you know what? I don't know where that came from. It has never been addressed to me as well.
Well, they've said they're calling on the Kenyan government.
I signed that agreement.
You're a hard lady to contact. It's less than a year now to Kenya's next presidential election. Back in 2007, after the disputed presidential election, then there was a great deal of horrific violence. 1,000 lives lost, hundreds of thousands of people displaced from their homes. Many argue that the perpetrators of that violence were not brought to justice. Your own deputy president, William Ruto, was at one stage going to be tried at the International Criminal Court in The Hague on charges of crimes against humanity and murder. In April, the judges said it was a mistrial. Let me finish the question. I'll ask you a question, but you can jump in.
I'm sorry. Your preamble is wrong.
It's wrong. He wasn't charged with murder or crimes against humanity. Was he charged with murder?
Let me tell you
was
something
he charged
else.
with murder and crimes? No, you said it was wrong.
I have to tell you
was he
something
charged
else about law.
with crimes against humanity and murder?
Let me tell you something about law.
So I wasn't wrong. Okay.
So let me tell you something about law, right?
Please do.
You don't keep, right? You don't keep sentencing people. You allow the due process to take place, and when due process has taken place, right, and people are found to be innocent.
He was not found to be innocent. That is incorrect. The judges said they refused to acquit your deputy president of any crimes because they couldn't try him, they said, because of, quote, a troubling incidence of witness interference and intolerable political meddling from Nairobi.
Let me tell you
That's what the judges said.
No, well,
take it up with the judges at the ICC.
Then don't bring it up. Let me take it up with them. But don't bring it up because...
No, I'm quoting them, remember?
No, but you can't keep
I can't quote the judges from the ICC. I can't quote Human Rights Watch. I can't quote Kenya's National Commission on Human Rights. I can't quote the State Department. Apparently, I can't quote anyone to you.
I have had very close relations with the Rome Statute and with the court itself, right? And we have been there as Kenya for a very long time. Why? Because we actually believe in the rule of law, right? And we believed that in the end, the right thing would be done.
Apart from when the court accuses you of witness interference and intolerable political meddling.
I could also accuse them, well, there's something already out there about the judges, but I will not go into it. Right? I think it's a subject that you need to take up with them.
On what basis will you and your President Uhuru Kenyatta be asking Kenyans next year to re-elect your government? What's your main offer to them?
Oh, we have every pledge that was in the manifesto has either been fully met, right, or is ongoing. Right? So we have a very good record. We're growing at 5.6%. We have a standard gauge railway that whose first locomotives will be running next year in June. We have laptops provided to our children in schools, health services all the way to the counties, right? We have constructed roads. We have modernized the port. Investors were coming in. In 2013, right, there were about 100 British companies in Kenya. Today, there are 210 that have a presence. The same for the French, right? We have doubled the numbers. The German companies, we've also increased the numbers. Japanese companies, Chinese companies. And we're not looking one direction or one way, right? Small marketplace, we're competing with everybody else, and we're doing well.
Okay. Amina Mohamed, thanks for joining me on UpFront.